Give us a call today so we can discuss your insurance or real estate needs. Parker Insurance and Realty, 265 South Macon Street, 427-9345. That's 427-9345.
Are you thinking of selling your home or business? Hi, I'm Gloria, and as a realtor, I know that getting rid of the clutter in your home is one of the best ways to help sell your house quickly. At Jessup Premium Storage, our family-owned company provides a convenient and secure building for all of your storage needs. We now offer outdoor covered parking for that antique car, boat, or RV. Due to our recent expansion, we offer units that range in size from as small as a bedroom closet to as big as a one-car garage. All of our units are inside and climate controlled with 24-hour access and security. Our leases run month to month, so you're not locked into a long-term commitment, giving you the flexibility to move your belongings out the minute you purchase your new home. Stop by today or give us a call, 530-8003. That's 530-8003. Jessup Premium Storage.
They're cool, clean, and secure.
WIFO-FM, Big Dog Country at 8:02. Time for the world-famous Butch and Bob Show. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Jonathan. How are you?
Week, as always. It's a week.
Golly, it's not even the weekend yet.
No. Got a special guest this morning.
Yes, we do. School Superintendent Jay Brinson, who wants to be in every month to bring everybody up to date what's going on in the school system. Jay, appreciate you coming in. Always good to see you.
Appreciate you having me. It's, we are going to try to get in here at least once a month just to kind of field any questions folks have and give an update of what's going on in our school system.
And Jonathan, what's that line they can call in if they want a question or text in?
Main studio line, 912-427-3711. That number is older than any of us in the room.
That's good. Good enough. But anyway, if you have a question, you can text it in or whatever Jonathan says you can do. I don't know.
Yeah, anyway, it's now text enabled main studio line.
Okay. Anyway, Jay, a lot going on in school. So let's start with the two new elementary schools. Just went through the groundbreaking for Arthur Ross Smith. A tremendous crowd on hand for that. I mean, it must have been 300 plus people on hand for that. So a lot of interest in that school. Again, tell people about the site. There's
still a little confusion about exactly where the site is.
Right.
It's straight down 4th Street. It's still, I don't know, maybe a quarter to a half a mile past the Copeland bypass that connects to Walmart. It's not right next to the bypass. It's on down there a little bit further on the right. Is where the site will be. And like I said, after the groundbreaking, actually the trucks were kind of waiting for us to get out of the way. So they did have to pay a little extra attention to the boundaries as far as the wetlands before they begin. You don't want to get in wetlands and violate that. That's not good. It ends up costing us some money. So they got that situated, and they're in there with backhoes and bulldozers and starting to clear the land. And they'll have to. The first thing they'll do is bring in a lot of dirt. So it'll look like there's this big mound of dirt out there for a while. But that's that surcharge process that we're going to have to go through. And what they do is, on the building pad, they'll pile that dirt up, and it has to sit on a metal plate basically till it stops sinking. It has to settle, and it can be anywhere from 30 to 120 days is what they say. Don't think it's going to be that long, but you just don't know. That's why you do a lot of soil testing, and I've learned a lot about that I didn't know. Didn't have anything to do with wetlands, but you have to have a certain compaction level in the soil before you build so.
And the elementary school, they mentioned yesterday, Ray Thornton talked about the plumbers and the electricians already on hand, so that building's on its way up.
That's really moving along. They're ahead of, like you said last night, they're ahead of schedule in some places. They were a little bit behind in some other places, but overall I feel like the project's right on schedule, and they're fixing to lay that first block for us.
And fortunately, Wayne Countyans went to the voting booth and passed these blocks for these schools. And as you mentioned last night, now that the schools are built, the elementary schools, Jessup Elementary, now it's Plan B, I guess, for a facilities plan, which the board is currently working on. So tell us how that's going to...
Well, you have to update it's called a 5-year facilities plan, and you have to update it every 5 years. What people may have forgotten, it's taken us maybe 10 or 11 years to finish this 5-year facility plan. A lot of reasons for that. The economic downturns certainly slowed things down, but the construction of these 4 new elementary schools were basically the 5-year facility plan. It takes a while to do that. You have to pass 2 East blocks, which we did. If you remember, though, one failed a while back, and that slowed things down as far as the plan. but the construction of Martha Ross Smith is elementary school is the last piece of that 5-year facility plan. So we're working with the Board of Education, one of Mike Rowland's Department of Education facility consultants was here last week, met with him, Leonard McCoy, and we're starting to look and that's his job. He guides us on what we may qualify for as far as the state's participation, in capital outlay projects. So we're working with him, and then we'll, certainly sit down with our Board of Education and talk to our, constituents and folks out in the community to see what they would like to see as far as, a 5-year facility plan. I think that's going to be crucial for us to really spend some time on, and we've been working on it really since last summer, just beginning those conversations, because I think that's going to be key to be able to go back to the voters here in 2 or 3 years and ask them to continue the penny.
Yesterday at the work session, several things were mentioned as far as the 5-year facilities plan. One thing was what to do with the old Martha Ross Smith once the new school is built. Any thoughts and plans what's going to happen with that building?
No, just preliminary conversations, see if there's any interest. Of course, you had the, there's several options. You can, it's our property. We can certainly sell it. You can demo and sell it. You can sell it as is. We could deed it to the city for a purpose. Nothing's really been, no avenue's really been walked down yet, but there's several options. Of course, that's an important site to community, a lot of history. We talked about that at the groundbreaking. And I think everyone would like to see something stay there. I think that's important to the community. So we'll talk to a lot of folks before we make that final decision. Ultimately, it's the board's decision.
Another thing was mentioned, James E. Bacon Elementary, improvements on that. There are no plans to build a new James E. Bacon, right?
No, and the main reason for that, and I've gotten that question, I guess that's just a logical question. Got 4, why not build the 5th one brand new? And the answer to that is, well, because of when it was built, you don't qualify for enough money to build new. Okay, so the next, I guess, level of funding would be renovations. All right, what we're pursuing is a kind of a new category that they just put in place maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and actually Glenn Academy's doing it to their facility. It's called modernization funding, but you have to qualify for it, which means certain parts of the building have to be, a certain age, I think it's over 20, 25 years old, and then you have to go in and look at the needs and see if the need justifies the amount of money they're willing to participate in for each classroom, each space, each bathroom, the whole, the gym as well. So, and it appears that we may qualify for, up to maybe over $4 million. Now, we certainly have to participate. That's not going to write us a check for $4 million and say, go forth and conquer. So there is some participation on our part for us being willing to participate before they would approve that.
Jay, I have a question.
Sure.
When was that built? Because when it was the junior high, way back when I was there, it was relatively new. Early mid-70s.
Right. Parts of it were, and you remember the annex?
Yes.
I was in junior high when I was 8th and 9th grade when I come through.
Yes.
So, some of it is, 30, 25, 40 years
so
old.
I thought like early 70s is when it was built. It was a good building then, and still looks improved. It's good shape.
It's a good solid building. Mr. Thornton and them have done a great job maintaining it. And we had that discussion with Mr. McCoy the other day that looks like we may have done too good a job in some areas because we just put in the roof on it a couple of years ago, and that's one of the big ticket items. That you can qualify for. But that's just a tribute to Mr. Thornton, that maintenance department, the wonderful job they do to, maintain our buildings. So, what happens with that is we'll do a preliminary study to kind of see if we're going to be close to qualified, and we'll submit that information to the state folks. And then if it looks like it's going to be close, we'll have to do a lot more in-depth study, get square footage, and see exactly what we plan to do. There's some things that they're not going to allow us to spend our money on, such as paving. We know James E. Bacon, that drop off and pick up, and parking is an issue. That'll be something we'll just have to commit to as a system.
And another issue that was mentioned yesterday, and this is always an issue, is the technology needs of every school. I asked this question. I know they have computers. Does every kid have their own computer now?
No, and a lot of systems are going to that 1-to-1 where they have their own, iPad, Chromebook, sort of thing they tote around in their book bag. We're not at that point yet. Technology is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And as you see in here, I don't know if we got the webcam going this morning or not.
Yeah.
But, it's here to stay, and it's a constant cost. 3 to 4 years, what you're using now is pretty much obsolete. So you have to have a plan to phase things in. You certainly can't just every 4 years write a check for an entire school system's technology. So it really does take some planning, and of course it takes that funding to give our students the quality.
Yeah, a lot of money.
It is a lot.
And what about the bus fleet? Can the bus fleet be used with the East Bluffs money?
Sure can, and that's something, and I'm certainly going to ask the board to consider. We just
Explain how the state's cut back on that.
Yeah, at one point they were sending, and I'll just make it real easy. They were sending money for 6 buses. Okay, I think last year we got
Every
money
year, right?
every year, and they never send a full amount. And I just rounded numbers up. If a bus costs $100,000, they send like 85 to 90,000. So so you got to put some of your money in locally to get a whole bus. So they were sending money for about 6 buses, which it wasn't totally for 6 buses, but it was their participation on it. Now they're sending, last year they sent money for 1 bus. This year they did send money for 2 buses. We have a fleet of about, I believe it's 60 buses overall. So you can see it doesn't take long to start getting behind. We're lucky to have great mechanics on there to maintain them, but again, Wayne County's a large county, a lot of dirt roads, and that wear and tear on buses is just, it's hard to keep up with. It's unsustainable what we're doing now. So that East Bluffs, we're trying to make it to the East Bluffs and get on a cycle where we're adding to whatever the state's giving us to at least get back to that 6 bus a year rotation. And over a 5-year period, you got half your fleet replenished, and in the next 5 years with the East Bluffs, you can pretty much have your bus fleet turned over.
So 6 is the number, though, that the school system needs to keep them.
I would say that's true. That puts us in pretty good shape. And you see, I think we got 2 this year. And of course, we have some special ed buses. They're more expensive. Of course, they have other, the lifts and other things on the buses to make them more expensive.
Are any of the buses air conditioned? I keep waiting for that.
There's some of our special ed buses.
As early
of course, that's
as school starts, I keep waiting for the state to implement that. This is as the school systems down south have to have air conditioning.
It is tough this time of the year, and it gets tough at the end of school. And I had a discussion with a gentleman last night about putting in air conditioners on our buses as we buy them new. We don't really know what that cost is, but that's something for us to look at. That the folks in our community think it's important, and that's something we need to look at, because you hear that every year. You hear that at the end of school, and you're going to hear that at the end of school, and it's very hot. And like I said, it's a large county. We struggle with drivers. We need bus drivers again if anybody's out there. But just takes some. Unfortunately, some of our kids are on the bus longer than I like to see them.
And where's the new track fit in the 5-year facilities plan?
Well, we certainly have a need. You get into athletics, those are some big decisions we need to answer. We need to finally, in Jay Brinson's opinion, we need to finally answer the question: are we ever moving our facilities over to where the new high school is? Because we have land there. We have about 100 acres worth of land that's been sitting there now for 12, 13 years. And I hadn't seen anything on paper. I was the high school principal for 4 years, and there's nothing really down on paper or a plan. Now it's mapped out for us, the land, and we did put tennis courts in across country. We did that real strategically when they did that to give us the option. But if we're not going to ever use the land, if we're just going to upgrade what we have, okay, well, that land's sitting there, and some of it's pretty prime real estate, in my opinion. A little bit I know about it. Some of it, they will not even let us build on it anymore. Remember that high school was built prior to 9/11. It was committed to. They won't they wouldn't let us build on that site today.
Well, hindsight's 20/20, but back when they built the brand new high school, that was the big battle. Are you going to build a Taj Mahal and just put everything out there? You're going to build a new football stadium,
right,
new baseball field, new softball field, put it all in there. We're going to save money. We're going to piecemeal it together. And like I said, now we're 12 years, and the dream of seeing facilities out there looks like it's dying. Well,
and that's, again, there's pros and cons to everything, in my opinion, and speaking to Coach Grooms and Mr. Adams at the high school, and having been there and lived that, I think our top need is a track. We're quad A, high school, and we don't really have a functional track for us. If you look at it, we painted it over a little bit and tried to dress it up where it looks decent, but we don't even have lines on it anymore. When you look real close where we had to cut across the track, it's not safe. I mean,
there's not 6 lanes anymore.
No,
I think
they're
it's
kind
down
of
to
crumbling off.
I think it's down to about 5 lanes now.
They're crumbling off on the inside and outside, so that needs to be addressed one way or the other. But then, you could put a new track over at that new high school, or there's some things you could do at the existing facility. And that's what we need to decide, because you're certainly going to spend more money doing a new one at the new side than you would dressing up.
But it's going to be a sales pitch to the voters again, because that's what you have to have.
Sure.
That's what you discussed last night at the work session. The East Floss is going to come up for a vote eventually, but it's a sales pitch to the community. And as you said, the new schools that built, that was the sales pitch last time, building brand new schools. But now the schools are built, there's other needs, like you said, technology needs, bus fleet, track. So I guess you sit down and do a priority list. Is that how it's going to work?
Absolutely. But it's got to. I believe it starts with these facility questions. You need to decide what you're doing with that, so you can plan accordingly. Where you can get that prioritized list for the East Plaza. I think facility plan has to come first, and then you start prioritizing what you're going to do. Again, if this next East Plaza should really get us over the hump, we can loosen up a little bit of our budget, where we can reduce millage rate, where we can get back to getting our teachers back competitive as far as pay. Certified employees have not had a raise now, I think, 7 years.
Yeah, the joke we've been saying is, see, now that we got the schools built, now we can get some stuff.
All right, and they need some stuff.
We need some technology. We need a track.
Our kids are still being provided for, but instead of having 100 in the gym, maybe we could squeeze out another teacher where we don't have another, get back to art and music and some of those things. Or maybe we could reduce those class sizes a little bit, get to those plateaus of learning that we know what research
on that topic, we've got a text message question here. Are we moving up in classifications in 2016? That's on the enrollment issue.
Well, that was the $1 million question last night at the Touchdown Club. It's hard to say. They are doing a little bit different, where they're taking a big group off the top for us.
The new super whatever.
Super 44.
Super 44.
And of course, they're splitting. The private single A, and then they're going to take everybody up and do the percentages. You never know where those percentages. They use that. They play with that a little bit to really form feasible regions. Of course, the FTE count is what they're basing it on, so you won't know really. It'll probably be Christmas or before we'll actually know. We did have we gained about 100 students at the high school, which is probably not a good thing. If you remember last reclassification, we were at the very top of Quad A. Now, we picked up about 100 students, but generally everybody else picks up students too. I'm just worried about what they've done with that 44 off the top, and now the bottom staying there. I am worried about us going up and being you just don't want to be the smallest in a classification.
I think that's what Jody said. You're either going to be the largest 4A school, or you're going to be the smallest 5A school.
I agree with that 100%. I think that's exactly
I mentioned last night to people in the parking lot, I said, look, when you got on board, and I told people this, once Wayne County got numbers against numbers, our athletics began to flourish. And you talked, and you stressed that when you got there. I said when we got to that Quad A level and started playing teams that are equal size, Wayne County's athletics started winning region championships. But when we were in that region where we had to participate against schools that had a lot more students, it's difficult.
It makes a difference when you look over there, and it's just a numbers game, in my opinion. You look at a school with 1,500 students, and you got another school with 2,500 students, and I understand some of them, half of them are female, but I think that out of 1,250 students, you might stand a better chance of finding 5 really good basketball players. You might have a lot more depth in football, which we know how important that is in football, just being such a physical sport. And you can go sport by sport, and the numbers are just important.
I know you want to talk about testing. Again, the state changes testing all the time. We hear about it all the time. I heard a funny line in church this past Sunday. They talk about taking prayer at school. They said as long as they give tests at school, there's going to be prayer at school because somebody's praying for it to get on a test. But the state's changing testing all the time. So tell us what the story is now for the school systems.
I did want to speak about that today, and I appreciate the texture from last session. It was right at the end, but I did want to speak to that a little bit. One thing I think that's a little misinformation that's out there is you hear about opting out of testing. Okay, there's no such thing as opting out of statewide testing. All right, if you go to a public school in the state of Georgia, you're required to take
statewide test, right?
Test, SLOs, assessments,
Right.
in every grade.
They change the name of it all the time, though, right?
Yeah, they do. We have new tests. We don't have the information back from last year's for our students. They just released the statewide results for the new assessment. They're called milestones. There's no longer EOCT and CRCT. They're called milestones. They've done some adjusting with the assessments. They've added another level. There used to be, you do not meet, you meet, or you exceed. Now there's 4 levels. That's just one change. But let me go back to that testing, or opting out of testing. You don't get to do that. Now there's a little push out there, and then really that's nationwide. You hear that. I'll equate it to the Common Core and anti-Common Core discussion. So there's discussions out there about students being able to opt out of testing. Well, that's not the case. If you're going to get credit for a course, you have to test. You're required to test. Now, I think what the confusion comes in, students are allowed to, at the high school level, to test out. That's different. What they're able to do is, and there's we have a process for in the system. They have to have a teacher recommendation, that sort of thing. But if a child's ready to take the test and they make an exceeding score on the test, they're able to get credit for that course without even taking the course. Right? That's for the old end of course test. There's 8 of them. They're called milestones now. So they could actually test out of up to, I believe it's 3 courses, and they don't have to take the class at all. Okay. And there's some requirements for it. If parents have a question,
do you see students doing that?
Yeah, we've had some do that. Sure do. We've had some. This past summer, generally what we do is, the summer before their freshman year, we take care of it in the summer. But because we didn't have the new test hadn't been released, now this past summer we weren't able to do that. The summer before we were. So we'll resume that this upcoming summer. And there's a process for it. And if your child, you think they're qualifying for that, you just need to ask your child's teacher or contact school. They'll give you a little more information.
And on that, also, you have a partnership with Coastal Times, correct? For core classes they can take while in high school.
Right, and that's that Move On When Ready program that we've had. We worked hard at that, and I'll credit Bonnie Gordon and all the folks at Coastal Pines that have worked with Wayne County High School to improve that participation as far as that dual enrollment, Move On When Ready. They added some legislation this past legislative session to really enhance that. And I think it's a good thing. It provides opportunities for students to get, college credit and high school credit at the same time at no cost to them. Plus, it doesn't count against their hope when they get out of high school. I think what you hear a lot about now is students, they can enter college and just basically, in theory, quit going to high school. And when they get that 2-year degree from, college, they're finished with high school. They get their diploma. Now, I say all that. It does have to marry with the scheduling at the high school. There's other options. Anybody can take an accredited course through an online high school, Georgia Virtual. There's a lot of them, Cyber Academy, K-12, and they're popping up more and more. So those are options for students that are ready. I'll just caution parents, that's an individual child and family decision, as far as getting a child finished with the high school and getting them into college, as soon as they can. I mean, that's certainly an individual family decision.
If you just joined the school superintendent, Jay Brinson, our special guest, looking at testing with our school system compared to other schools, how do you think we're doing? I know one point they gave test scores and we were like the lowest in the RESA district, and made a lot of people upset about that. Have we made improvements?
Yeah, well, it depends what you compare. And I think and we just talked about that here recently. When you look at our scores are generally right there at state average. Okay, and what you look at when you start comparing schools to schools, we fare a lot better. When you start comparing counties to counties, okay, we have one high school. Some counties have 5 or 6, high schools, or they have 2. We have elementary schools. We have 5. Some folks have 10 or 12. And we just pulled those last CCRPI scores, and that's kind of what we're measured with now, which I think is a better indicator because it's a lot more encompassing of everything that goes on in a school. So we pulled those CCRPI scores and compared, K-5 elementary schools to what we have, K-5 elementary schools or pre-K through 5, and then 6th, 7th, 8th grade middle schools. Not everybody does that. Some schools are divided up K2, but that's considered an elementary school. Well, that's really not. When you compare that to a K-5 school, they don't get measured on half of the criteria that a K-5 school does, if that makes sense. So, and we're fixing to post that. So I think you'll see that we're pretty average, I guess I'll say.
Well, I just know that's the key thing, and that's what, sometimes we lose focus watching these board meetings. I tell that story several years ago. They came in with a slide presentation and showed test scores of Wayne County compared to state average, and it was elementary schools below state average, middle schools below state average, high school below state average. Does anybody have any questions? And nobody had a question. And I was freaking out, like I got 50 questions and I'm just getting started. Right. So, I mean, that is important. I know you, when you got on, I know, but I'm just saying, when you got on board superintendent, you made that a priority, that you knew that Wayne County needs to improve their test scores, and a lot of effort's been made in the last couple of years since you've got on board to focus on making sure kids are competitive statewide.
Well, I'll say it again. The only reason we're here is to ensure the learning of children, and that's not, the testing is part of that measurement. It's an important measurement. That's what people look at, but it's not everything. But that learning that goes on in those classrooms right now, that's the only reason we're here. And we talk a lot about facilities and athletics and lunch and recess, and we have to have all those things. You don't have school if the buses don't run. So those things are important, but that learning that's going on in the classroom should be, it is going to be the focus.
Now, I was going to say, when you're below average, you could be like 0.1% below average, and people say you're below average, but yet that's really not that big a difference.
And I'll give you an example. Looking at CCRPI scores, I looked at some of our schools. We have them ranked like 1 all the way to the end. Every school that's in our RESA district, our elementary school. If we have a school with 81, scored 81 on the CCRPI score, if they just increased 2 points, they'd move up like 8 spots on the list. That's how close it is.
Statistics can be manipulated to do whatever.
You have to, it's all relevant. You have to take in the whole picture of things. But we have a lot of work to do. I will mention, I know we're running out of time, but I did want to commend the high school. We just received back their ACT scores, which a lot of folks say the ACT or the SAT. The ACT, the average score, that's how that test is built to get an average score of 20. You can score anywhere from 1 to 36 on the test, but they kind of build it. They want average 20. And that's what the state average was this time, 20. Our average was 19.8. So again, that's
you're right there, even though you're
right at the state average, and that equates to about a 1,500 on the SAT is what they say. So that's and the trend data shows that our high school has increased every year over the last 3 years, while the state's decreased. And we're talking tenths of a point type thing, but at least we're going up. And progress is all I can ask for.
Well, again, we appreciate you being here.
We have one more question here. What is the future of the alternative school? And then we can close on that point.
Okay. Right now, we're looking to have Dr. Sharon Dumas running our night. It's a night school program that it begins right when school's over with till about 8 o'clock. I think 3:30 to 8 o'clock is the general, and it's working well. And for the money and the success the students have, it's the best I've seen over the last 2 years compared to what we've done. And we know we've had several models. So right now we're going to continue with the night school model.
Yeah, but you want to be a regular every month, and we're working on that to have you once a month. Like I said, we have all these other months, like Coastal Pines comes in once a month, Wayman World comes in once a month. We want the superintendent once a month as well. Like I said, we appreciate you. This forum's for those type of events. Sure. And like I said, you're welcome to come anytime, and hopefully we can line you up on a monthly basis and get you in and keep it later today. Always good to see you, Jay. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Bob.
That's going to do it for another World Famous Butch and Bob show. Have a great day.
WIFO-FM Big Dog Country at 8:30. World Famous Butch and Bob show brought to you today by Parker Insurance, Jessup Premium Storage, Mike Burge Ford, and a new sponsor, B&C Collision Center.
This is Bill Parker with Parker Insurance and Realty, your locally owned and operated independent insurance agency. We specialize in home, auto, commercial, ATV, motorcycle, and boat insurance. Being an independent agency, we have the ability to find you the best price available to suit your insurance needs. At Parker Insurance and Realty, we can help you package your insurance or find the specialty insurance required to get you covered. We are your source for any real estate needs, whether buying or selling. We can help you. Give us a call today so we can discuss your